Hey everybody, this is Tony, Tainted Lord A7, and here's 11 random current favorite death metal albums in my collection. Pretty self-explanatory, just showing off 11 random current favorite death metal albums in my collection. So let's begin. The first two CDs are from the same band, and this band I'm pretty sure everybody knows. The first one is Morbid Angel, Covenant. Just some classic 90s death metal. An absolute flawless masterpiece, in my opinion. If you want to hear what death metal sounds like, this is pretty much the blueprint of what death metal more or less sounds like, and it's a damn good one. So, yeah, Morbid Angel Covenant, a 90s death metal classic. Next up is another classic, except from the late 80s, and that's Morbid Angel's Altars of Madness. Yeah, this album needs no introduction. Everybody has discussed about this album so much that if you don't have this album in your collection and you're a death metal fan, then I just wonder why. Because this is just a classic death metal album from Morbid Angel. So yeah, some classic death metal from Morbid Angel. Autos of Madness is a masterpiece through and through. So yeah, Morbid Angel, Altars of Madness, classic death metal right here. Okay, next up is Exhume, Necrocracy, an awesome, fast, crushing, dynamic, beastly album through and through. You know, Exhume most notably be most notably be called like a bunch of caucus worshippers, and yeah, I can totally hear how much they worship caucus, but I think have their own style, own sound, in my opinion. And I think Exhume's Necrocracy is just a solid death metal album through and through. Very fast, technical, and just a crushing beast of an album. Really good stuff. So yeah, Exhume's Necrocracy. Next up is a band that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, but if you just want some solid, straightforward death metal, you can't go wrong with this band. And that's Zyklon and the album Disintegrate. Again, this is just some fast, straightforward death metal. Nothing too over the top, but this is just a very satisfying release. Some good riffs, great solos, and some gnarly vocals. This is just a really solid, straight up death metal album. And not a bad release to check out. So, yeah, Zyklon's Disintegrate, a solid death metal album. Okay, next up is Massacre's Back from Beyond. Now, Massacre are a very influential death metal band that I've always known about. I've always heard about them, but never actually gotten into their music until I got this album, Back from Beyond. And it's a solid, straight up death metal album. I don't think it's going to be a classic like the 1991 album From Beyond, but for what it is, I think this is a very solid, straightforward death metal album from Massacre. I don't think anyone would be disappointed by this. Honestly, this is just, like I said, just a solid, straightforward death metal album. It may be a bit predictable, but for what it is, it's still a very entertaining release. So, yeah, Massacre is Back from Beyond. Just a solid, entertaining death metal album from a long standing band. Okay, next up is Cannibal Corpse. Yeah, Cannibal Corpse in the latest album, Chaos Horrific. When it comes to US death metal, everybody should know Cannibal Corpse. Like, with Cannibal Corpse, you pretty much know what to expect, know what they sound like, and they always deliver. And Chaos Horrific, is no slouch. It's just a fast, crushing, in your face, headbang beast of an album. Just a ferocious death metal album through and through from a band that's been doing this for over close to 4 decades now. And they don't show any sign of slowing down anytime soon. So yeah, Cannibal Corpse Chaos Horrific is another awesome, ferocious death metal band from a long-standing band like Cannibal Corpse. So yep, Cannibal Corpse Chaos Horrific. Excellent, excellent stuff. Okay, next up is Nile in the latest album, The Underworld Awaits Us All. Now, Nile are a brutal technical death metal band that I've always known about. I've always heard about them, and I've heard a lot of people praise about them. But this is actually my first real introduction to Nile. I know, where have I been, you know? I should have checked them out much, much earlier, but better late than never. And this is just an amazing, amazing album. Obviously, Nile is most famous for the more Egyptian themed lyrics, and well, you can expect more Egyptian themed lyrics on this album as well. But musically, it's very brutal, technical, fast, ferocious. The guitar playing is just over the top, and this is just a monstrous beast of an album. And pretty much kicking myself in the ass that I never checked out Nile a long, long time ago when I first heard about them. But better late than never. Yeah, but yeah, Nile's The Underworld Awaits Us All. It's just a ferocious, awesome album from Nile. Brutal, technical, but absolute beast of an album. So yeah, Nile's The Underworld Awaits Us All. Good stuff. Okay, next up is God the Throne in the album Bloody Blasphemy. Now, God the Throne are a death metal band I don't hear a lot of people bring up or talk about, but this is just a really solid, straightforward, crushing death metal album. They're not doing anything too over the top or too flashy in my eyes, but what they do very well, and it's just a very solid, straightforward death metal that will definitely satisfy your craving for that kind of sound. So yeah, God the Throne is definitely an underrated band and it needs to be talked about more. And Bloody Blasphemy is also an underrated album that more people needs to check out. So yeah, this is just a very solid death metal album through and through. God the Throne's Bloody Blasphemy. Okay, next up is Dying Fetus. Make them beg for death. Um, yeah, with Dying Fetus, you can expect some very crushing, brutal riffs, solos, and probably the deepest guttural vocals you'll ever hear. And you totally get all that on this album. This is just a very solid, brutal, technical, crushing, ferocious, in your face album with some of the deepest guttural vocals you'll probably ever hear. And yeah, this is just an excellent death metal album through and through. Dying Fetus, Make Them Beg for Death is just a crushing release. Really good stuff. Okay, the next album is Allegion and the album Elements of the Infinite. Yeah, Allegion are just a very, very, very good death metal album. I mean, Allegion is a very good death metal band, and Elements of the Infinite is just a very solid death metal album. Very riffy and technical, and just a very intense but energetic release. Yeah, nothing really more to say. Honestly, this is just a very fast, ferocious, energetic, pretty over the top release from Allegion, in my opinion. And Elements of the Infinite is definitely a solid album from this band. And yeah, this is just some excellent stuff. So yeah, Allegion, Elements of the Infinite is just a very good death metal release from this band. Definitely check it out. And the last CD and the last album I'm going to show for this video is Decapitated's Carnival is Forever. Now this album was like a comeback album after all the drama and tragedy that happened before this album was released, with um, a key member passing away. But after years of um, being dormant, they finally came back with this album back in 2011, and it showed that they weren't going to stop. They sound very ferocious, very intense, and just showing everyone that Decapitated are back for good. Decapitated's Carnival is Forever is just a very fast, intense, ferocious death metal album from a band that definitely triumphed over tragedy and brought out the goods. And yeah, Carnival is Forever is just a very solid Decapitated album and a solid death metal album through and through. Very good stuff. So yeah, Decapitated's Carnival is Forever. A very fast, energetic, and ferocious death metal album to check out. And that's pretty much it. That's 11 random current favorite death metal albums in my collection. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and hopefully everyone enjoys it. Thanks for watching.